Hello friends, welcome to my channel and welcome to Dev with Excel. Alright, so in today's video we are going to be solving exercise 3.17. Yes, so that is step 5 of the phone book database. In the previous video we saw how we could solve exercise 3.16, which talked about moving the error handling of the application to a new error handler middleware, which we did successfully. Alright, so in this video we are solving exercise 3.17, and it says if the user tries to create a new phone book entry for a person whose name is already in the phone book, the front end will try to update the phone number of the existing entry by making an HTTP put request to the entry's unique URL. Modify the backend to support this request. Verify that the front end works after making your changes. So practically, we are expected that after implementing our codes, right, we are able to perform the CRUD operations, the entire CRUD operations, using either the backend or the front end. Everything should work just as the way it's expected to be. All right, going into the code implementation. Um, this is my VS Code. I'm simply going to close all of these parts here, and then let's see how we can resume with this exercise. Okay, so starting with the back end. Now this is a setup folder I have for this exercise, right? At this stage right now, it's just a duplicate of the previous setup folder we had, right? So I'm simply going to be going into this setup folder and then running it. All right, so copying its parts and then coming here, say cd. So here we are currently running step 5, right? So we do npm run dev, and then it's currently running. All right, so notice that in the previous video we were able to use the step 9 setup folder, right, for the part 2 phone book exercise. Right now, this aspect, looking at this very well, let's go to the slc and then let's go into the app.jsx. We can see here that we let's bring this down. You can see here that we actually have the create endpoint, we have the delete, we have the get endpoint as well, right? So currently we can't update our entries using this particular setup folder. But in the next exercise, which was step 10, right, we were able to perform an update, right? Let's go to that part. We're able to perform an update here, right? So we are going to be using this step 10 setup folder for this current exercise. And mind you, this involves the front end. Now, explaining this better, when we come to the part 2, we can see that the reason why I want to use this step 10 setup folder is because in this part 2, it says change the functionality so that if a number is added to an already existing user, the new number will replace the old number. It's recommended to use the HTTP put method for updating the phone number. If the person's information is already in the phone book, the application can ask the user to confirm the action. Now, this is almost similar to what we want to do here. Sorry, yes, what we want to do here. That's exercise 3.17. So here we also focused on the updates of entries, right? So we are going to be solving both the backend and the front end in this exercise. So that's why we need those setup folders. All right, okay. Going back to the VS Code. So I'm currently going to run this step 10. So I'll simply copy its parts and then cd into it. Then do npm run as well. All right, so going to the front end. So it's currently running. Okay, so as it is now, we can see that we can't get data returned here, right? Because there are some implementations we actually did using the step 9. I need to do some explanations here based on what we did previously. In the step 9 of the phone book we did in the front end part here, we were able to link the base URL of our backend to this setup folder. but in step 10 we don't have that, right? So we are going to be doing all of that for step 10 also. All right, so the first thing we need to do is in step 10 we need to go to the vite.config.js file, and then we need to add some logics here, right? So we are simply going to copy what we have in the step 9 here and then add it to what we have in step 10. All right, so going into the step 9, going to the vite.config, we are simply going to copy what we have here, and then going back to the step 10, okay, here. All right, so we simply just paste this here, then we save. Now this is not going to automatically work yet. Let's confirm that in the front end. So we can see that it's not still going to work yet for now. All right. So what we need to do next is in the step 10, we need to go to the service and then go to name, and then we need to edit this base URL to /API/persons, right? Because as at now, we are able to grab this entire part of the endpoint, right? Which the front end has been exposed to in the vite.config here, right? So the next thing we need to do is to add the remaining /API/person. So here we are simply just going to do something like, let's duplicate this, then let's comment this, right? Because we might not know, there might be a need for us to still use this. I'm not sure about that, but let's just leave it that way. So here we simply say /API/persons, right? So let's save this. So as we can see here, we can see that here for the step 10 here, we have the updates code implementation, right? But for the step 9 here, you're going to the SRC, the service, and the name.js. We can see here that we don't have the updates, right? So nothing is going to work for updates here. That's why we are currently using the step 10, because step 10 has more code logic than what we have in this step 9. I hope you understand this, but just follow me. All right, so let's just put this here. All right, so here we have the CRUD implementations, right, for this front end here, and then we've added also to vite.config.js. All right, so let's go back to the front end, to the browser, and see. Oh, awesome. All right, so here we can see that the data now is being returned. Reason is because using these endpoints now, the front end can communicate properly with the back end. Just as simple as that. All right, so the next thing we want to do is okay, we can easily just close this part and then close this part here now. Let me check something in the app.jsx. Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now, going into the back end now. Now, this is the setup folder for the back end, right? For this exercise. And of course, it's still a duplicate of what we did in the previous exercise, which is step 4. So we are simply going to be editing whatever we have in this duplicate for this exercise. All right, so we go into the index.js, and then let's remove this part, and then same thing here. All right, so as we can see here, we have the get here, we have the post here, we have the delete here, but we don't have the update logic, right? That's why we are not able to update here. So coming to the front end here, let's see if we can make some updates. Let's write a name, let's call it John, and then let's give it 1, 2, 3. Then click add. So we see John is added to the entry, right? But now when we want to try to update it, we say John, and then we click on 1, 2. Let's see what we get. Let's click on add. It says John is already added to PhoneBook. We click on OK. Error updating the number. All right. So we get an error updating the number. We get an error updating the number. Updating is not going properly. Why? The reason is because we need to implement that logic in the back end as well, right? It's working fine with the front end, but not with the back end, right? So at this point, if we test all the CRUD implementations, create works well, read works well, delete also works well, but update is not working. So let's try to delete and see. Let's delete amen 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it says delete amen. Okay, so that's deleted, right? So you can see that we're able to also create John 1, 2, 3. All right, we've been able to delete also, and here we can get, that's why we can see this data here. But now update is what we want to work on now. All right, so working on the update, we can just come to this next line after the delete request, and then we begin to work on the update, right? So here we are simply going to do we say app.put. Now you can choose to use put, you can choose to use patch, right? So put is expected to update every aspect of the entry, right? While patch is supposed to just update some aspect of the entry, right? But I think people commonly use put more than patch, right? Because I think they just want to be sure that everything whenever they want to update anything, nothing should be a problem. So you can choose to use put or patch. All right. So the next thing we do is simply we copy this endpoint. The endpoints can still be the same because we are trying to target an ID, right? So we can't update everybody in the database all at once. We only edit per entry, right? And using the ID. So the next thing we do is we also use this request. All right, so we do this. Okay, so the next thing we do is we can simply just do something like we can just say rec.params, right? Now this is going to be the ID that is passed in here, right? Now we are trying to target the ID that is passed in here. So we could just do something like this, rec.params, and then assign it to a, or we destructure the ID from it, right? So doing something like this, we just do ID. So we are trying to destructure the ID from this parts passed in, right? Whenever it is passed in this endpoint, we get it from here, right? All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do something similar to that for the body, right? So here we say request.body. Now this is going to be the entry passed in from the front end, right? So we say const. Now we are trying to target the number, right? We are trying to target the number. All right. So after doing this, here this represent the ID coming from this endpoint here. Why this represent the number coming from the front end or from the user. All right. So what we want to do next is we want to update the number from what it was before to the new value. So we simply just say persons, right, which is coming from the database, right? Person rather, not persons. Dot find by ID and update, right? Now this is there is a method we get from MongoDB, right? So find by ID and update. Now we want to target it using the ID, and then we want to update the number, right? So we want to set new to be true so that nothing breaks. Now new is true, right? Okay. Now we know this is going to return a promise, so we say dot then let's pass in a parameter. Let's call it updated person. Yeah, I think we can use updated person. Updated person should work. So the next thing we want to say is if there's an updated person, right? That's if you are making any update. So we are going to return the update, right? The entire update. So we say if updated person, excuse me, this is an if statement. All right. So if updated person, we say rest.json, and then we want to return the updated person. All right. So this is cool, right? Then we also give it the else condition as well. So we say else, let's return, let's say rest.json, and then sorry, let's begin with status. Let's use status rest.status. Then let's give it a 404, and then we say dot end. So that's that. Okay, now to handle the error, we simply use this catch, right? Just as we used here, we can just use catch here also, right? So that works. So we can just say dot catch, in brackets we pass in error as a parameter, and then this passes it to the next function. We pass the error to the next function. All right, so let's save this and see if we've done the right thing. Okay, so this is giving us this. Okay, so this shouldn't be this way. I think we are supposed to do something like this and then put this here. Okay, let's save this and see now. All right, so this is awesome. Awesome. Okay, now so let's see if this is going to work in the front end. Right now we can test this in the back end and also test this in the front end. But if this works in the front end, right, it means it works also in the back end, right? But let's just try testing it with the back end first and then try testing everything in the front end. All right, so going to my Thunder client as we've been using recently, I'm going to start with the get. So let's see if we can get persons, right? SC. So we have Dev with Excel. We also have John. Awesome. Let's see if we can post a person, right? So let's post Nkechi, right? So now this is a name common among Nigerians, right? From the tribe of the Igbos, right? So this is Nkechi, right? Having this number, let's say 07675. All right, so let's post this and see. It says 200. Okay, let's see if it's part of what we have in the database. So let's click on send. All right, so it's reflecting here now. Awesome. That means we can make a post request as well. Let's see if we can delete something. What should we delete? Let's see if we can delete dev with Excel using this ID. So let's copy this ID and then let's go to the delete and then let's remove this one and then paste the new ID we just copied. Let's click on send. It says 204 no contents. That means the item has been deleted. Now let's go back to send and let's hit send and see if dev with Excel it disappears. So let's click on send. Dev with Excel is gone now, right? That means delete is working well. Now to update, we've not used updates, right? Now let's update. Going back to get again. Let's say we want to update John using the ID. So we want to update John's number from 123 to 12345 using its ID. So let's come to update. We remove this. We paste in its ID. Now we type in John here and then let's change it to 12345. Now let's hit the send. Now don't forget that you need to edit this part, right? Now we are trying to perform an update, so this place has to be a put request. If it's a get, this place is get. If it's a delete, this place is delete, right? If it's a post, this place is post. Now we are trying to update, therefore we have to select this and then choose update, right? Now let's hit the send and then we have John with 12345. Now John was initially 123. Let's hit send now and see if we can get the updated entry. All right, awesome. Now John is having 12345 as his number. All right, now this works fine in the back end. Now let's be very sure that it's also going to work fine in the front end, right? All right, so let's refresh this. And then here we can see that we have John and Nkechi here, right? Which are the two entries we currently have in the database. Now let's see if we can perform a post request again. So let's add a name. Let's call the name team with 89 as its number or his number. Let's click on add. Now we have team 89. Awesome. Let's see if we can. Okay, so the read we can get, that means we can get is actually working. That's why we can see these values displayed here. So post and get are currently working very well. The next one is delete. Let's see if we can delete Nkechi from this entry, right? So we click delete. It says delete Nkechi. We click on OK. All right, so that is gone. Right now, the last one I want to check is the update. Now let's see if we can update the number of team to something else. So we click on team, and then let's give it 1 2, or let's just say 891. Then let's click on add. It says team is already added to the phone book. Okay. All right, so now we have 891, right? Okay, so the update works very well. Now remember that if we don't include this update function here, right, this updates here will not work well. Let's comment this out and see what happens if we don't have this code logic for updates. So let's come here. Let me just check something. Okay, both are currently running properly. Let's refresh this. Let's expand this. So let's try to update team once again. Let's say team, and let's give it 1 2 3. Let's click on add. It says team is already added to the phone book. Okay. It says error updating the number, right? That's because we don't have the code implementation in the backend. So let's revert this again to the working stage. So if we try to update, let's say let's update John now, and then let's update John to 567. We click on add. It says John is already added to the phone book. And by the way, we need to change this statement to John is already added to the phone book. Do you wish to update? Right? Okay, so let's click on OK. Let's refresh this. All right, so John's number has been changed to 567. All right, so with this, I think we've been able to successfully solve this code implementation, this exercise. Let's change that part that says John is already added to the phone book. Let's add some more descriptive statement to it. Um, where can we get that? Not the back end, but the front end. So going back to step 10 in the app.jsx. All right. Okay. Okay, here. So dash is already added to the phone book. Let's continue. Let's say, do you wish to update? So we click on OK, right? So let's save this. Let's save this. And then let's refresh this. Okay, so let's try to update team, and then let's give team a number such as 325. Let's click add. Awesome. So it says team is already added to the phone book. Do you wish to update? Okay. So team should have 325 now, which is this. Awesome, awesome. So with this, we've been able to solve this exercise. Let's go back to the instruction and see if we are not missing out in any other instructions. So it says if the user tries to create a new phone book already, okay, modify the backend to support this request. Verify that the front end works after making your changes. All right, so I think with this, we've been able to successfully solve this exercise 3.17. And if you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe to my channel. You can as well share some of my content to your friends, right? So that there's more visibility on my channel, right? And see you in the next video. Bye.